This is part 2 of the read-along for Unit 3.09, Post-Impressionism 1. La Grande Jatte. Seurat was 26 when he exhibited the monumental A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of La Grande Jatte at the Impressionist Show of 1886. Monumental, meaning in this context, meaning really large. So you can see in this photo here the scale, the size of the painting compared to the people that are looking at it. More than 10 feet wide and 6 feet tall, the painting presents a melange of people and animals enjoying a leisurely afternoon at the park on La Grande Jatte, an island retreat in the Seine River. So the painting presents a melange of people and animals, meaning a variety, a mix, a lot of people and animals enjoying a relaxing or leisurely afternoon at the park on La Grande Jatte, which is an island retreat in the Seine River. The Seine River is the river that goes through Paris. To see an audiovisual presentation of this painting, explore Art Lecture, A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of La Grande Jatte. To see a slideshow presentation, explore La Grande Jatte activity on the next screen. So if you want to do this art lecture, you can click through that on your own as you go through the content. This is the slideshow activity where you can learn a little bit more about La Grande Jatte, so please click through that on your own as you go through the content if you are interested. Paul Cézanne. Paul Cézanne was born in 1839 into a well-to-do family in southern France. He began his artistic studies in his hometown of Aix-en-Provence and then moved to Paris at the age of 22, where he emulated the style of Romantic painters, including Eugène Delacroix. So he's born in 1839 into a well-to-do, meaning fairly wealthy, family in southern France. He wasn't originally from Paris like some of the others. He began studying art in his hometown in southern France, Aix-en-Provence, and then he moved to Paris when he was 22 years old, where he emulated or copied the style of Romantic painters, including Eugène Delacroix. By the 1870s, Cézanne adopted the Impressionist color palette and subject matter. Yet, consistent with his desire to create paintings with structure and solidity, Cézanne also moved away from Impressionist conventions. So he picks up the colors that the Impressionists use and their subject matter, their everyday life subject matter. But he wanted to create paintings with structure and solidity, so less sketchy and less loose, and so he moved away from those Impressionist conventions or traditions. So here it shows Paul Cézanne, and it says he emulated Romantic and Impressionist artists before developing his own unique style. Again, emulated means he copied Romantic and Impressionist artists before he developed his own style. Shortly before being replaced by the euro in 2002, French currency included a 100-franc banknote featuring Cézanne's portrait. Just a little interesting trivia there. So there's his image on the 100-franc note that France used to have before they switched to the euro. Mont Sainte-Victoire. Cézanne's home in France was located near one of his favorite subjects, the Sainte-Victoire Mountain. He made dozens of oil paintings of the mountain, presenting it from different views and during different seasons. So he's got a home, it's near this mountain, he loves this mountain, he loves to paint this mountain, the Sainte-Victoire Mountain. He made dozens of oil paintings of it and painted it from all different views and in different seasons because, like we've discussed with the Impressionists, the paintings can have a different look to them when they're painted under different lighting conditions. Cézanne was not interested in capturing a fleeting impression of a scene, nor was he concerned with painting nature and humans exactly as he saw them. Instead, he arranged paintings in the best way he saw fit to provide structure to the natural world and create a harmonious composition. Cezanne worked on going beyond physical appearance to capture the underlying structure of nature based on geometric forms such as the cylinder, sphere, and cone. Explore Mont Saint-Victoire activity on the next screen to compare Cezanne's painting with a photograph of the mountain. So, Cezanne is not interested in capturing a fleeting impression of a scene like the Impressionists were, and he didn't want to paint nature and humans exactly as he saw them. So he wanted to arrange his paintings in the best way that he thought to provide structure to the natural world and to create a harmonious composition. So to provide structure, meaning that he wanted his paintings to look solid, and to create a harmonious composition, he wanted to arrange things in the work of art the way that would look the best. He worked on going beyond physical appearance to capture the underlying structure of nature based on geometric forms such as the cylinder, sphere, and cone. So he didn't want to show things exactly as your eye would see them, but he wanted to show sort of the structure that holds everything up in nature and base that on geometric forms like the cylinder, sphere, and cone. So these sort of 3D simple objects, he wanted to show those or give you sort of an idea of those in his paintings. So Cezanne painted the Saint Victoire Mountain from a personal, emotional perspective. Compare the painting with the photograph of the mountain. What if Cezanne had chosen to paint a highly realistic image of the mountain? How might a realistic painting affect you differently from Cezanne's painting? So think about if Cezanne took this view, which is what he saw, and tried to paint it exactly as he saw it instead of sort of breaking it down into these shapes and using these really bright, vivid colors. So this is less realistic, but it gives you more of a personal, emotional perspective. He's trying to get you to feel something whenever you look at this painting rather than just saying, this is the mountain exactly as it looks whenever I see it, which would be what would happen if he did a very realistic painting of that mountain. Bold color and complex brushwork. Cezanne used vibrant color combinations and a marvelous repertoire of brushstrokes to create a painting that sings with energy and movement. So he used bright colors and a marvelous repertoire, meaning a repertoire meaning that he had a lot of different brushstrokes that he could use. So they're different. They're not all the same. The painting's not all made with one kind of brushstroke. He had many different brushstrokes, and he used them to create this painting that sings with energy and movement. He paired cool blues and violets with warm ochres, placed saturated greens next to neutral browns, and brushed smooth layers of transparent color near thick patches of opaque pigment. He applied the paint with varied yet deliberate brush strokes with thick, thin, smooth, and rough. So you have a lot of contrast in this painting. You've got cool colors like blues and violets next to warm colors like ochres, which are these kind of yellowy colors in the painting. Saturated greens, meaning really vibrant, very green greens, next to neutral browns, and brushed smooth layers of transparent color near thick patches of opaque pigment. So he's got some parts that are thin and transparent, so a little see-through, and then he's got thick patches of opaque, meaning not see-through, pigment, which is the paint. He applied the paint with varied, different, yet deliberate, meaning on purpose, brushstrokes. Some are thick, some are thin, some are smooth, and some are rough. So there's a lot going on in this painting. All of those elements work together to unify the painting and create a wonderful interplay of texture and color. So because he's got all of these different things going on, what makes this painting really work is that all of those different things going on, they all work together to create unity in this painting, meaning this whole painting looks like it really goes together, and it creates a wonderful interplay of texture and color. So there's texture and color sort of working together to create this painting. Explore color and brushwork of Cezanne activity on the next screen to learn more. So be sure and click through this little widget here whenever you're going through the content on your own, and it'll give you some cool close-ups of some of this painting. Creating the illusion of depth. Renaissance artists who preceded Cezanne created the illusion of depth in paintings by using one-point perspective. They also understood that cool colors tend to recede on the canvas while warm colors advance. Cezanne rejected one-point perspective, instead creating the illusion of depth by using pale, cool blues for the mountain and the sky. The colors gradually transition from cool to warm as they approach on the foreground, which is a rich mixture of yellow, oranges, and greens, warmed by the addition of yellow. So, Renaissance artists who preceded or came before Cezanne created the illusion of depth in paintings by using one-point perspective. They also understood that cool colors, think of them as watercolors, blues, greens, purples, tend to recede or move back on the canvas, while warm colors, fire colors, reds, oranges, yellows, advance or come forward. Cezanne rejected one-point perspective, instead creating the illusion of depth by using pale, cool blues for the mountain and sky. The colors gradually transition from cool to warm as they approach the foreground, which is a rich mixture of yellow, oranges, and greens, warmed by the addition of yellow. To create a sense of unity in the painting, Cezanne repeated the colors in varying degrees throughout. The cool mountain contains flecks of warm ochres, and the foreground foliage has hints of blue-violet. So, to make this piece go together, even though he's got cool colors in the very back, warm colors in the front, he takes some of his warm colors, his warm ochres, and adds small amounts of them in the mountain. And he takes some of these cool colors from the top and adds little hints of them in the foliage or in all of this plant life that's in the front of the painting. And here's some little close-ups. Structure and form. In Cezanne's desire to capture the underlying structure of a subject, he avoided the use of Renaissance chiaroscuro to model objects. He relied instead on strokes of color to suggest the different planes of an object's surface. Through intense observations, he discovered the underlying framework of Saint Victoire and used strokes of color to create the mountain's plains, simplifying it to its most basic form. So, what this is saying is that to show the structure of a subject, he didn't use Renaissance chiaroscuro, which is really dark shadows and bright highlights. He instead relied on strokes of color to suggest the different planes of an object's surface. So different angles of the face of the mountain would have different brush strokes. So instead of really dark shadows on one side of the mountain and really bright highlights where the sun is hitting it, he would use brush strokes to show the different sides of the mountain. Through intense observations, he discovered the underlying framework of Saint Victoire and used strokes of color to create the mountain's plains, simplifying it to its most basic form. So he studied it really carefully and figured out how to use strokes of color to show the different sides of the mountain.